Hello, and welcome to Gunfighter Life, the podcast where we talk about gunfighting the right way, with God at the center, with Judeo-Christian values and real-world, first-hand experience. Exodus 15, the Lord is a man of war, and we are made in his image. I am a man of war. If you're listening to this, likely you feel the call to be a man of war as well. I'm going to do a quick abbreviated bio as I am out and about today. First and foremost, I'm a Christian, a servant of God, a follower of Jesus Christ. Less important than that, I am a Marine Corps combat veteran a few times over, also served in the U.S. Army, both full-time and part-time. Was an urban warfare instructor for the United States Marine Corps, been a private contractor, call that whatever you want, mercenary, whatever, private contractor for a 3-letter government agency that I won't specify. FBI certified firearms instructor, been blessed to be a state rifle and pistol champion a few times over. Been a professional big game hunter and guide. Hunted all over this beautiful country. Hunted since I was a young boy. Been blessed to be the commander of a tactical team where our primary job was to stop active shooters. Blessed be the Lord my rock, who trains my hands for war and my fingers for battle. You know, a lot of times I'll think of podcast topics before, like earlier in the week, and I'll take notes on my phone or in a notebook, and then I'll record them. This one I was actually driving to where I am now, which is a dog park with my dog, and I thought of this one just on the fly. And you know what? It's a cool one, so I'm just going to record it. Cool crossover guns. By crossover, I mean tactical to practical. Go in the deer woods with them, go hunting with them, and also use them for defense. Just good all-around guns. Just good all-around guns for lots of things. They're not the most tactical, they're not going to be on the cover of Combat Handgun Magazine, or probably not on the cover of Recoil Magazine, or if they still have that magazine, or whatever. But they're just good all-around guns. They bridge that gap between the tactical world and the practical world, the hunting world. Number one on the list that I just made up in my head, and there's no particular order, a good 4-inch mid-size .357 Magnum Revolver. Are and should be handguns used for combat, like in war to be issued to soldiers. Should revolvers be used for that? Would I recommend this for that? No. But a good mid-size revolver is great for defense. It's great for a carry gun. It's great for, going out for a hike in the woods. It's great for hunting. It's great for a lot of things. When I was a professional big game hunter and guide, part of that included trapping and dispatching animals that perhaps I didn't need a rifle for, that were already injured or caught or something like that. And a .357 Magnum Revolver was my go-to. And anyway, a good medium size. By medium size, I mean 3 to 5 inch, 4-inch being the most common. Mid-size, let's say your K-frame or L-frame Smith & Wesson, or your GP100, or even your smaller extended barrel J-frames. But a good medium size revolver. And .357 Magnum, which most of you know will also shoot .38 Special. It will be a good, if I could only ever have one handgun for the rest of my life, it wouldn't be a bad choice. It wouldn't be my pick, but it would be a good choice. Again, you could hunt with it if you wanted the challenge of hunting with a handgun. You could load it with, wad cutter .38 Specials and take medium small game to small game. You're not going to blow apart a rabbit if you shoot it and want to feed it to your dog with, 38 wad cutters. Also, you can take deer. Many a deer have been taken with a .357 Magnum. That medium size is not too big to carry, going on a hike. Like I said, doing a lot of things. It will be great in a bug-out bag. I think that's a great crossover gun. The next crossover gun, probably talked about it before. In fact, I remember talking about it before. But the Ruger Mini 30. Most of you guys are familiar with AR-15s. A lot of you guys are familiar with the M14. Super tactical, But the Mini 30 is an iteration of the Mini 14, which is a scaled-down version of the M14 to fire .223. The Mini 30 shoots 7.62 by 39, which I think is a great all-around caliber for deer-sized game, for defense. Obviously, it's probably one of the most commonly used offensive, defensive weapons in the world in the guise of the AK. But a good crossover for that is the Mini 30. The Mini 30 gets the nod over the next one I'm going to talk about, which is very similar, but you can mount modern optics. In fact, most of them come set up so you can very easily mount modern optics. In fact, Ruger is one of the few companies, and I think they still do, they did for a long time, include good quality scope mounts for the rifles. And it wasn't like you didn't have to pay $70 extra. They just came with the rifles. I don't know if they still do that, but I do know that you can mount modern optics on a good Mini 30. Mini 14 is a good gun, but the Mini 30 I think is a good crossover gun. Obviously, if you're in my bio, which I just said, so you probably did, I have been to war a few times. I have fought with the AR-15. I use the AR-15 in police work. I also use the Mini 14 in police work. And I'll be honest, for a lot of things, I like the Mini 14 as much or better. It points well. It points more like a good sporting gun, which is faster. I'm much more likely to need good first, second round hits than I am to be able to do a quick reload after dumping a 30-round mag. I've been to war a couple of times. I've never dumped a 30-round mag. I like the Mini 14, but I don't think the 223 is the best all-around caliber. I think it's a good caliber, but I think the 7.62 by 39, there's no arguing that it's an effective caliber. And if you wanted something that was double duty, you know, it's your bug out gun, it's your hunting gun, it's your whatever, it's your defensive gun, it's your go to the range and shoot some cheap ammo gun, as cheap as ammo can be nowadays, the Mini 30 would be a good choice. Like I said, Mini 30, the 7.62 by 39 is a great caliber for deer hunting. Is it as good as a scoped 30-06 bolt gun? No, but again, this is not that. This is an all-around gun. The next one is, I was actually reminiscing with a guy at the gym yesterday. We were talking about the SKS. He said he had one that he picked up for like $39 back in the day. Try and find him one for that nowadays. No, it's inflation, anybody. But anyway, I remember growing up, I told him, I was like, yeah, the SKS was kind of the poor redneck deer hunting rifle. A lot of the guys that I knew that hunted deer, if you were poor like me, you had a single shot shotgun or a bolt action shotgun, or you may have had a pump action shotgun, or, you know, if you had a rifle, it was likely an SKS. An SKS has long been like one of the go-to prepper rifles for good reason. It's a good all-around gun. AK-47s, I'm not saying you can't shoot a deer with them. I'm just saying it is on the complete far end of a spectrum for a deer rifle. The SKS really kind of has that Woodstock sporting. It doesn't scream tactical gun unless you have like one with a bayonet and a grenade launcher. But just your classic one kind of is that iconic crossover between the era of a good Woodstock blued steel gun that was made for warfare. And it certainly is capable in that role, but it also is good for hunting. It has good sights. It points more like a deer rifle. It's a good all-around gun, the SKS. It's just hard to mount modern optics without destroying them, and there was a time when they were dirt cheap and a lot of people sporterized them, but I don't know that you're going to want to do that nowadays, which is why I took a backseat to the Mini 30. But a good all-around gun for sure. The next two are very similar. A classic. Maybe you live in a place where you can't hunt with a semi-auto. I have never lived anywhere like that, but I've heard that there are places where you can't, let's say, hunt deer with a semi-automatic rifle. The Remington 760, if you're familiar with the Remington 870, classic, iconic, American shotgun. You know, nobody's going to argue with the effectiveness of at least of the old school, well-made 870s. Those are great guns. You may or may not be aware that they make the Remington, I think at first it was a 76, and then the 760, and then the 7600. All of those are pump-action rifles. Pump-action rifles and full-caliber cartridges. Don't quote me on this. I'm not looking it up. I'm going off the cuff, but I believe they made them in like 223, 308, 243. Certainly 30-06 and 270 are probably the most common, but nobody's going to argue that 30-06 and 270 are great deer calibers. .30-06 obviously started out as a war caliber. It started out as our service rifle for WW1 and WW2. So nobody will argue with that effectiveness either. You can get a good pump action, which if you are familiar with pump action shotguns, they can be shot quite quickly. Well, you can get a good rapid rate of fire in a pump action sporting rifle that wouldn't be my first choice for a gunfight, but it would be far from my last choice. It would be far better, I think, than a bolt gun, or at least a bolt sporting gun. Or even, I might anger some people, but I would far take that over a Mosin Nagant or anything like that. Especially for me, because I know that from firsthand experience, the quality of Remington has really gone down lately. But the 760s, I think all the ones that are made were made a while ago, and they're going to be of good quality as far as I know. And the 870, to me, is just the best pointing, best natural fit shotgun that I've come across, besides the Benellis. But the Benellis are going to cost you a couple grand for a good one. And the Benelli does make an R1. And if you were looking for a premium version of this, that's the Remington, that's the Benelli kind of version, a top-end version of this in a semi-auto. Anyway, I digress. Getting back to the 760, it is a pump action in anything from a 223 to a 308 to a 30-06, 270. Great crossover gun. More towards the hunting end of the spectrum. If you're looking for a good close-in woods gun to a several hundred-yard deer gun, pig gun, rapid reloads, coyote gun, 760 is a good gun. I think very, very underrated. It also has a cousin called the 74, 740, or 7400, which is a semi-automatic version. Points very similar. I like those a lot. I've never owned one. I think they're fantastic. And that leans a little bit closer to the tactical spectrum because it's semi-auto. And assuming they're reliable, and I hear that they are, I would take anything semi-auto over anything that wasn't for gunfighting. In the field, if you're talking about a moving animal, I think it's kind of a moot point. But, double taps, whatever you want to call them, control pairs, they are a thing. And I would rather have a semi-auto for a gunfighting application. Or if I have an injured arm. Or if I'm shooting one-handed, which is a thing. And again, the premium version of that, Benelli makes a semi-auto rifle called the R1. I've only ever seen those at SHOT Show. I've never had one. I don't know that I ever would. But if you were looking to spend some coin and get a really good rifle that I'm sure if Benelli makes it is going to be rock solid, it would be the R1. Would be probably a fine crossover rifle mounted with a good LPVO, low power variable optic. And then my number one pick for all-around gun, like all-around, do-it-all, good crossover gun, would be the one gun I would pick that I actually own, or even if I didn't own it, it would be the one gun that I would pick if I could only have one gun. It's not my favorite gun to shoot. It's not my favorite gun to practice with. It's not the coolest gun that I have. It's the most practical for everything gun that I have, and that is my Benelli M2. I had a Benelli M1, super nice gun, the Super 90, back when they were either made or imported by HK. Phenomenal gun. I foolishly got rid of it for a Benelli M4, which, if you don't know, is like the super tactical Benelli. But that's pretty much all it is. It's a door-kicking Benelli. It is super heavy. It's a pig of a shotgun. It's, I'm sure, reliable, but I did not like mine. I bought it and almost immediately got rid of it. And I settled on the M2. The M2 is, in my opinion, the most crossover tactical practical. It's very common in 3-gun. It's very common in the hunting world. It's very common in tactical circles. It is great. My number one pick for barrels for this is one that I keep on it. And it is I believe 18-inch. It's a shorter barrel, but it has rifle sights. Not the ghost ring tactical sights, but like a classic rifle sight. And mine takes interchangeable chokes. In fact, I have 2 barrels, which we'll get to. But this one is the one that stays on it. It's got the good rifle sights. They are good for point shooting. Are they as good for like shooting doubles and skeet? No, but they are a good, fast, and accurate sight picture. They're the Benelli rifle sights, not the ghost ring sights that are common in the tactical world. Mine is ridiculously accurate, as in like one big hole, as in like I could hit those little tiny quarter-sized pasties with it at 50 yards with slugs, with the slugs that it likes. It is ridiculously accurate. If it was a rifle, I would be happy with its accuracy. If it was like a semi-auto sporting rifle, I would be happy with how accurate it is. It's got a chrome-lined barrel, which means you don't have to worry about it rusting. It's good. It's handy. I can put birdshot in it. I can put number 4 buck in it, which is one of my favorite all-around rounds. I can put slugs in it. I can hunt anything from a dove to a grizzly bear and not be overgunned or undergunned. It is the best crossover weapon, in my opinion, period, at least for me. You may beg to differ. But I think that is like the epitome of a crossover gun. It would be good for clearing rooms. It would be good for hunting doves. It would be good for hunting deer or bear or anything like that. In fact, the biggest bear I ever took, I took not with my M2, but with my old M1, which was even less suited for hunting than my M2 is. Anyway, men, I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Gunfighter Life. I'm sure I've left out a few. Again, this was literally just thinking about it on the way here, but I think a good episode by God's grace. If you have a good crossover gun, let us know. Check it out. Leave it in the comments. Leave a review of the podcast. Leave it in the comments. Great episode, but you left out the whatever. Anyway, with that, like I said, leave a review of the podcast. Like, subscribe. If you want to check out more, go to goodshepherdtraining.com. If you think this episode was worth $1 or more, the fraction of the cost of a box of pretty much any ammunition nowadays, you could support the podcast. And before you go out and buy the next, unless you don't have any ammo, then in case I say go buy ammo first. But if you have some ammo, before you buy the next box or the next cool gun, please consider spreading this wisdom to others, because it's free to put out. I mean, strike that. It's free for you to listen to, but it's not free to put out. It's not free to produce. It's not free for web host, for any of that stuff. So if you want to help contribute, please do. Again, goodshepherdtraining.com. There's a Patreon link on there. That's all I'll say about that. Oh, and before I forget, the other barrel that I have for that shotgun, I said I would get to it, and I didn't mention it. It's a shorter barrel, but a traditional vent rib. I think it's 18 or 20 inches. Vent rib, very much traditional, except for being shorter than what's common. It's either 18-inch or 20-inch, somewhere in there. Just vent rib, chrome-lined barrel with interchangeable chokes. If I knew all I was going to be doing was bird hunting or something like that, I would put that barrel on. It stays in the bag with the shotgun. But that's the other barrel. And that'll bring me to the tactical tip of the day. Let's stick with shotguns. If you guys don't know about the Federal Flight Control WAD, it is not a gimmick. A lot of stuff in the marketing world, a lot of stuff in like the ammunition world is the new hot gimmicky thing. In my experience, the Federal Flight Control WAD is not. It is significantly tighter patterning, especially in more open choke shotguns. I think it's supposed to be shot through a cylinder bore or maybe improved cylinder. I don't know that it would work through a full choke. I don't know that it wouldn't. That's just generally not what I run. But with a more open choke or a defensive shotgun, the Federal Flight Control is not marginally better in my experience. It's tremendously better. So if you can find some double-aught buck, number 1 buck, number 4 buck in the Federal Flight Control WAD, it is designed to keep the shot in the wad even after it exits the barrel. And in my experience, produces a very tight pattern with buckshot. So if you're looking at hunting at longer range with buckshot, if you're looking at buckshot for any kind of tactical application, I would suggest giving a good hard look to the Federal Flight Control WAD. I'm not sponsored by Federal or anything like that. I pay, wherever I can find the Federal Flight Control, I get it. But it is a big improvement over traditional buckshot in my experience, if you want a tighter pattern on your buckshot. Tactical verse of the day is going to come from Psalm 25. God is upright, Correction, good and upright is the Lord. Therefore he instructs sinners in his way. He guides the humble in what is right and teaches them his way. All the ways of the Lord are loving and faithful for those who keep the demands of his covenant. For the sake of your name, O Lord, forgive my iniquity, though it is great. Who then is the man that fears the Lord? He will instruct him in the way chosen for him. With that, men, I want to say thanks for listening. Have a blessed day.